What is up, YouTube? It's your boy Alter Ego, and welcome to another episode of Masterclass. Today, we're going to be covering landmines, spike traps, and turrets. Before we start, I just want to say a huge thank you for all the support. The growth recently has been absolutely insane, and I seriously cannot thank you guys enough. Let's get started. First, we're going to be covering landmines. There can be anywhere between 0 and 35 landmines on your moon. You'll usually find them on Artifice since it has an average of 10 landmines. These things usually aren't super dangerous as long as you know where they are. Landmines will make a beep sound and flash a red light every few seconds. When you step on a landmine, you'll hear a click, meaning it's activated. However, it will not blow up until you've stepped off the landmine. The landmine will blow up about half a second after you've stepped off it, which unfortunately isn't enough time to sprint away. However, if you full sprint and jump off the landmine, you will only be dealt 50 damage. When a landmine blows up, it will damage any players or enemies within 6.4 units of the explosion. Anything within 5.7 units of the landmine will be killed, and anything within another 0.7 units will be dealt 50 damage. You can actually outrun a landmine if you sprint far enough behind a wall, but I wouldn't recommend doing this unless the conditions are perfect. Also, any landmines within 5 units of the explosion will also set off, which can cause a chain reaction. Landmines can be set off by players, dead bodies, items, stun grenades, Easter eggs, or by hitting it with a weapon. The only enemy that can activate a landmine on its own are man-eaters. However, if a bracken or hoarding bug drags a dead body over a landmine, it will be activated. If you find yourself standing on a landmine, there are 2 ways out. The first is to have a teammate deactivate the mine, in which case you'll hear this noise, and you'll need to step off right away because it'll only be deactivated for about 3 seconds. The second is to have a teammate teleport you back to ship. The best and most convenient way to set a landmine off without getting killed is by using an item. The strategy is to jump over the landmine, drop the item on the landmine, and sprint away. You want to aim for the very edge of the landmine because if you drop it too early, you won't have enough time to get away from the explosion. As you can see, when I drop my item looking down, the item will drop right underneath me. However, if I look straight, the item will drop a couple units ahead of me. So when doing this strategy, make sure you're looking straight down and drop the item when you're right above the edge of the landmine. If the item lands directly on the landmine, it will not explode, in which case you can just pick the item up. Also, you can do this with every item, just make sure you don't have any other items in your inventory. Make sure you're not in an area with a low ceiling because you will not be able to do this. Please keep in mind this will only work for host, this will not work for clients. This strategy is a little difficult, but with some good practice, it becomes very easy. If you'd like to practice this strategy, I'd recommend downloading Imperium, which allows you to spawn landmines, items, and respawn. Spike traps. There can be up to 18 spike traps on your moon, with the highest average being 8 on Embryon. While you're standing underneath a spike trap, you'll hear this noise. This is simply an indicator telling you that you're underneath the spikes of a trap. There are 2 different spike traps. The first is an interval trap, which is what you'll see most often considering each trap has an 80% chance of being an interval trap. The fastest interval traps will slam is every 0.8 seconds, and the slowest is every 26.2 seconds. The second type of trap is a detection trap. Each trap has a 20% chance of being a detection trap. This trap has a tripwire from the red light straight across to the end. The trap will set off about 1/10 of a second after stepping on the tripwire. The only way to survive this trap is to full sprint through it. The spikes don't do any damage until the trap slams, meaning you can also just jump over the tripwire. Employees and enemies will be insta-killed the moment they are crushed by the spike trap. The most important part about spike traps is locating them and determining which type of trap it is. They can sometimes be pretty hard to locate, so be sure to watch the ceiling, look for the red light, and listen for the sound indicator. There's no physical difference between interval and detection traps, so the safest way to figure out what kind of trap it is to simply watch it for about 25 seconds, and if it doesn't slam down, then you know it's a detection trap. Although enemies can't set off spike traps, they can still be killed by them, which can be very useful if you can successfully bait an enemy into a trap. Turrets. There can be anywhere from 0 to 35 turrets on your moon, with the highest average being 12 on Titan. Turrets will scan from left to right, covering about a 160-degree area. The turret will complete its left to right rotation in about 5 seconds, then rotate the other direction. While scanning, the turret can see 70 degrees wide and 30 units away. When a turret spots you, you'll hear this sound as it locks onto you. If you break line of sight, the turret will go back to scanning in the same direction. However, if the turret stays locked onto you for 1.5 seconds, it will begin firing. No matter how close or far you are, each bullet will do 50 damage. If you're standing within the first 10 units or so, it's pretty much an insta-kill, but if you're any further, you'll usually have enough time to find cover since the turret has quite a bit of spread. When you break line of sight with the turret while it's firing, it'll continue firing for another 2 seconds, then return to scanning. While scanning, the turret will not look up or down, but as soon as the turret spots you, it will track you no matter how high or low you go. This is very important to know considering it can shoot through floors and railings. The only way to avoid getting hit is to break line of sight, get behind the turret, or jump on top of the turret. Just be sure to stay towards the back. Turrets also have a berserk mode, which is activated when it's hit by a shovel or sign. The turret will wind up for about a second, then it'll shoot non-stop while spinning 720 degrees. Berserk will last a total of 9 seconds, and you can actually jump over the bullets while a turret is in berserk mode if you time it right. Turrets can be extremely dangerous when a pipe bursts or if you're moving through a dungeon quickly, so be sure to hug walls and constantly use your scanner in dark areas because turrets will scan. Turrets cannot shoot through doors and they cannot lock onto or damage enemies. If a turret is in an inconvenient spot, you can have a teammate disable it from the ship, which will disable it for about 4.5 seconds. You can also put it in berserk mode if it's scanning an area you need to get by. Also, remember that the side of the turret that has one leg will always be the back of the turret. If you need to get past a turret, locate that single leg because they're usually a lot easier to get by once you know where the back is. Make sure you guys like the video and stay tuned because we have the AI behind man-eaters coming out next weekend.